Guys, we're live on the moon. It's Wednesday, December 7th, and around 6:11 p.m. I'd like to welcome you to my Moon Musings. My name is Bill Bryson, and I try to do this every night. I haven't been able to do it for about a week or so because of the souped-in clouds over Houston. I live about 30 miles west of Houston, and the cloud cover has been really bad. Matter of fact, we've even had rain, and so that's put a crimp in my style. But we're here tonight, and we're going to try to do a decent survey of the moon. I've got my 19 millimeter lens by Astrotech in the telescope. I use a Nexstar Celestron Nexstar 8 SE with an experimental camera, and the camera itself is a Logitech C910 webcam that you can buy for, well, it retails for $99, but I think Amazon, I bought this one that I'm using for $69, but I believe somebody told me Amazon's selling it for $49. But it's an amazing camera, and I want to show you just somewhat kind of what it's going to do. By the way, I wish everybody, while I have the chance, because of the clouds, you never know how it's going to work. I wish you all a happy holidays. The season is young. We're approaching Christmas, and seeing as the weather's pretty fickle down here, you just never know. We usually have a rainy season in Texas around December, so December's not the best month for looking at the moon where I live, but we're going to try to do our best. Yes, I do have a camera with a zoom lens, and let me turn autofocus on just so you can see how it jumps in and out a little bit. It's a Carl Zeiss focus, and you can see it kind of kicking in and then kicking out. See how it's tripping in and tripping out? And because of the atmospherics, it's tripping out more than I would like, so I'm going to just kind of manually focus it here, and then we'll leave it at that. Lately, I've been very interested in these Mars. By the way, we're looking at an area here on the left. It's kind of interesting. People say there's no color on the moon, but yet here you see very plainly a color on the right and color on the left. Kind of a line of demarcation around this lake. I call this area Crystal Lake. And this area shows me great interest because it's really a kind of a strange area in that in this area in particular, you can see better how it looks like a lake. Take a look at the upper 12 o'clock position. That particular crater is a crater with a ramp. It's hard to see the ramp in this particular image, but if you look to the immediate right of that crater, you'll see a crater that looks half submerged. In lake. And then if you look carefully below that, you'll see a lake with kind of a shallows area around the edge. even all the way to the bottom around to around 5 or 4 o'clock or 3. And then you'll see little dotted lines, dotted little lights with lines going through areas. These are old impact areas, but try it autofocus again. It's just not too conducive to the autofocus right now. But if you look at it, it looks kind of like it's, instead of sand, it looks like it's made out of crystal, and you can kind of see right through it. See, I could show you this whole this area in another light, and it would look like sand. I mean, literally. And matter of fact, let me just kind of show you if I took the color completely off this. See, people say there's no color, but look at the line between the crystal lake on the left side and the other mar on the right. You can see the one is definitely, it'll be brown, greenish, brownish tinge, and then the one on the right is a bluish tinge. Let me turn the color intensity all the way down. Okay, and astronomers look at this area and they just see, they think it's a flat sandy thing. But when you throw color at it, this camera is unique in that it does have the capability of bringing out an incredible amount of color. It's not a color aberration, it's true color. If there's color on the moon, it's going to bring it out. And we do see it come out in spades. And you can see the crystal lake on the far left at the 9 o'clock position. And then centered, you see this other mar, and you can see there are two distinct colors. We'll go back and look at that a little bit later with a Barlow lens and see if we can see any better. This moon is, I had a moon last night, but I couldn't get to it. If you've watched any of my videos, you realize that I live with acreage. I have about 1.7 acres in the backyard, and I live in a 2-story house with a porch, and a porch with a roof. Well, that's my observatory, my porch with a roof. And when the moon is high, and it runs into the roof. At this time of the month, the moon is I call it a racing moon. The moon comes up low in the sky about 4:30 p.m. It races upward into the sky faster than any other time of the month, it seems. And then when it does, it has a tendency to go into my porch and the roof, and I can't do anything with it. And you say, well, you could take it outside. Yeah, I could, but see, I want to bring to your attention one other thing. Now, isn't that beautiful? I'm recording this video at 1080p, guys. 1080p is high definition video, not 720p, 1080p. And if you watch this on a 54-inch screen at 1080p in your living room, you would understand what I'm talking about. It really can bring out the moon in all its glory. And because I turn the color on, you can see the coloration, if there is any, on the moon. And we are approaching a full moon. And as such, it's going to be brighter. And as it gets brighter, we should be able to see into these Mars. And that's what, at least at this point in time, that seems to be what I'm interested in. Let's zoom in on the moon and show you the versatility of this particular rig. And I can do this without changing any lenses. And right now I have auto on, bright light off. I can control the exposure in the gain, and I'm going to do so in a second. I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to get it down here just over the edge a little bit. And I'm going to try to adjust it right there. I'll leave the focus right there. On this particular webcam, I know some of you bought this camera and experimenting with yourself. You're experimenting with it by yourself. On advanced settings on this camera, it says image quality, and there's a right light. When you turn the right light on, that has a tendency to lock in the exposure. When you turn the right light on, it's like it's sitting on the top of your desk, and it turns on the little LEDs, and it basically is for low light. Well, I usually leave the right light off. It's off right now. And when it's off, then the auto on the gain, there's a gain control, and if it's on auto right now, if you turn it off, when you turn it off, it unlocks exposure. And see, I can turn the exposure. See, I can make it real bright or real dim. I'm going to put it on auto. And I'm going to back out just a dab, because I want to do a kind of a good overview survey of this moon. Out a little bit further. And see, I can control the brightness. See, when I control the brightness, it brings out some of the stuff on the left side, which is dimmed out. And in the bright areas then come in, you know, clear. Let's go down to the bottom of the moon, and let's work the brightness control a little bit, just so we can see some of this stuff that's a little bit darker. And I think that what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to put in a Barlow on this. I told you wrong. I thought that was Crystal Lake, because this is Crystal Lake right here. There's the ramp. Matter of fact, I was kind of fooled because of that one crater that was under kind of underwater. Let's look closely at this, since I've talked about it and I've misassigned. Let's zoom in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and let me see if I can focus it better. And let me drop the brightness down. Do you ever notice on these Hubble telescope pictures how they're so colorful? Well, what they do is they take pictures of deep space. They might leave the telescope sitting on it for an hour, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever. They'll just stare at space, you know, and then they'll collect all this light, which is, you know, and then they'll expose it. And basically when they do, then they take that picture and then they roll it into Photoshop and they try to enhance the colors that are there. Well, essentially what I'm doing, see, normally there's no color. See how the color is zero right here? When you increase the color on the moon on any picture, see how you can see, if I over bring out the color, see how there's too much, but I usually like to write it around the midpoint. And you can really see that there is color on the moon. And I just tried the autofocus again. It's just jumping around too much. Usually that's a sign that there are atmospherics, and it's harder to use the autofocus when there's a lot of atmospherics. If you take a look at this particular picture, you'll see that big crater on the left. That's the crater I said had the ramp. And if you look at that large crater's 6 o'clock position, you'll see a ramp that kind of goes down. And if you go and look around the crater at the 4 o'clock position on that lake, on Crystal Lake, you'll see a crater that looks like it's underwater. Well, these particular Mars have craters that look like they were underwater. It's like this was at one time liquid. I'm not saying it's liquid right now, but you can see through it. You can literally see through it. It's a atmospheric moon tonight, but we'll be able to get a good survey in. Again, I hope that you guys are having a good December and everything, and that you're going to have a great Christmas. Now, see when I turn the brightness down, how that crater on the right then bounces to your attention. And let me kind of center right there on that horse, what looks like a horse, and turn the brightness up. And let's just go into that area and see what we can see. I'm fascinated by these Mars because I see underground cities, or in some cases lights, and all kinds of weird and strange things. And let me see if I can focus any better. Now, we'll come back and visit that here in a little bit with this Barlow. I'm going to put a Barlow in this in this particular lens. You say, what's a Barlow, Bill? Well, a Barlow is it can double or triple your power. Like right now, let's talk a little bit about telescope power. The telescope I have is a Celestron Nexstar 8 SE, and the effective power for this telescope, the good, they call it usable power, is based on the focal length and a whole bunch of other things. And the effective usefulness of this telescope is 400 power. Well, when you put the Barlow, put a lens in, like right now I have a 19 millimeter, but I can zoom with this 19 millimeter. And let me turn the brightness down a little bit. Let me see if I can use this. See, the moon's so bright I can't effectively use the exposure control. But you can see the shadow line, how it's creeping up on the left side. And you can see also how as I move left or right on the images, isn't that beautiful? Let's see what we can do with this. This is a particular haunting area of the moon for me. It looks like every time I come here, it looks like it's we turn the brightness up. So if you turn it up too much, then it kind of washes out. See how that bright area in the middle and below? If I put the brightness at the right spot, then it kind of looks like it's somebody took a, let me zoom in, took some watercolors and just kind of splattered them on the screen, or a paint gun, you know, and what you're looking at is the paint spray, and it's coming from both that crater that's to the little right of center of the large one, and also from the one below. And let me turn the brightness up a little bit more. See, if you turn it up too much, then you can't see everything, but if you turn it down, let me work the contrast a little bit better, you can bring out the color. I was saying that these Hubble photos, they go in there and then they work on them to bring out the color, and that's essentially what I'm doing when I'm fiddling with these controls. I'm working the controls to bring out the color. I'm not saying I'm very good at it. I'm just saying that that's the only way you're going to really bring it out. And you can see there's an incredible, isn't that beautiful? Absolutely stunning. Let's go in a little bit more. Just a beautiful, beautiful picture. Matter of fact, let's just leave it in for just a second and go to the right a little bit. And see that crater right there at the bottom, kind of on the shadow line. What I want to do right now, we're about where we started on this thing, because I kind of started on the left side here. That area right there, it's kind of centered right now. It's called the Ascartes crater. And what I want to do, I'm going to put that Barlow. Let's see what we can do with that, because it's a rare thing to be able to get that crater in the shadow line. And let's just put a Barlow in there and see if we can get a little closer. I'm as close as I can with this lens. I'm going to put a Barlow in, and what the Barlow in does, again, I was talking about it before. The Barlow will, in this case, I'm going to put a 2.5 Barlow. It should get me 2.5 times closer to this particular crater. So hang with me. One of the unique things about this camera and the way I have it set up is I have a special mount that my friend Mike and I made. Mike made it, machined it. It's a machine shop, and basically we can change lenses. So I'm going to take this particular lens out, and I'm going to just add a Barlow, and we'll get closer. So hang with me, guys. I'm going to put it on pause. Be right back at you. Okay, guys, we're back with a 2.5 Barlow sitting behind a 19 millimeter. And let me see if I can get it. It's actually a pretty clear picture when it's in focus. But I said before that there are atmospherics. Okay, let's take that crater. I think this is the best combination for this particular rig. Is this 19 millimeter and this Barlow, and essentially what I'm going to show you is effective about 400 power. Now see, let me zoom in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's about as good as I can get. And let me turn autofocus on now. See if I can. I'll just leave autofocus on for right now. See how it's jumping in and out. But that is as close as I can get to the Ascartes crater, which is the name of that crater. And my guess is it's probably using the true 400 power of this telescope. Let's go to the right of Ascartes for a minute and turn up the brightness just a bit. I still have autofocus on. I'll take a look at that. This is probably as good as it'll get with this particular telescope. I said this is the effective range in power of this telescope. I have a 5 times Barlow, and if I put the 5 times Barlow on, you could still see an image, but it would be out of focus. It would be kind of less clear. And why is that? Why can't I just put more? Isn't that beautiful? Look at those mountains right there, guys. That's an incredible picture. On the left. Why can't I just start throwing lenses at this thing and get a better image? I still have autofocus on. That's why it's jumping in and out. But you can see the detail along the coastline here of this. So you have the Mar on the right, and it kind of looks like a coastal plain. It's because every telescope has an effective use. The particular, let me turn the autofocus off for right now, okay? I don't mind it doing autofocus sometimes, but whenever the atmospherics are too peculiar, then it makes it harder to. Matter of fact, let's just back out a little bit to make it, that's good. The telescope, every telescope has an effective power. This one is about 400. To get a clearer image, what I'm trying to say is the only way you're going to get a clearer image than 400 power, and you can go in closer with this camera, you know, with different lenses, but it's just going to be more blurry. The only way to get in closer and have a clearer image is to essentially, let me go in again. I am interested in these Mars, and let's turn up the brightness. Is essentially get a larger telescope. And if you did, then you'd have a larger focal length, and then there would be a clearer image. Now, I just want to sit on this for a second because it's interesting. All of these Mars, they say, are just flat sand. But if you look on the left, and I do have autofocus on again, and you can see these little spots of light. They look like light tires. Some of them are actually on top of the surface, and you can see clearly that they're uh, craters. But others, they look like they're below the surface, and scars on top and below, and it looks like it's actually water. And it looks like what we're looking at is a lake. And if you go to the left, to the coastlines, what I call the coastlines, I have a name for everything. Now take a look at that that pinnacle, that point. On the moon they call them promontories, and there's a name for that promontory. It might be I don't know what it is. The Nebuchadnezzar's promontory. There's a name for that promontory, and it looks like it's just a cape on a coastline. And if you look out to the right of that, you'll see, just like we would have on our coastline, you'd see, like on the continental shelf around the United States, you have depth, and then below that you have the deep blue sea, where you can see from space, you can see the continental shelf, and then when you get out into the ocean, then it gets darker. And that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at an area around the coastlines that are a continental shelf, and then beyond that, a deeper area. And that's why my conjecture, and as I know it's solid to an extent, but you can see through it. So I call that one area Crystal Lake, because I really believe you could see through it. Okay, I don't want this to be super duper long, but what I'd like to do now, before I close this up, I'd like to go to the edge on the shadow line and just kind of work our way around the bottom with this Barlow. First of all, let's go up here to get the just to see what we can see. Let's do a circumference of the moon right now. That would be a good thing to do, and then we'll finish it up after we're done. Hope you guys had a good Thanksgiving, and I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. If you're into astronomy and you have access to a telescope and it's clear skies, a lot of astronomers say the best time to look at the stars is on a crystal clear night in the dead of winter, when there is less atmospherics. I'm just going to do a circumference. Look at that blue haze. I contend that that's atmosphere on the moon. Atmosphere on the moon. So that sounds crazy. Not really. Right now, NASA is planning on, I think in March, they have a mission. They're sending a satellite to the moon to look at and analyze the atmosphere on the moon. There are several different theories about what it is. Some scientists think that it's dust. That when the astronauts were up there bouncing around, you say, "What's that color?" That you went up there, but that's when I go up to the edge of the moon and it's looking at the color, and the camera trips in automatically and sometimes amplifies it. It's because it sees a tinge in that color on the moon. This is a very good camera, very sensitive to color, and it brings it out. And what is that right there in front of it? See those two eyes? And see how we've looked at that thing really, really close, I think, in the last couple sessions. I have autofocus on right now. I'm just going to leave it on because I'm moving around. That's my ferret. I told you I had a peculiar name for everything on the moon. That's my ferret. As a matter of fact, you can actually, with this camera, you can go to the edge of the moon, and if there's a star or something out there, you're going to see it, because this camera will actually bring in stars. And I've actually looked at the Orion Nebula with this camera. I'm going to do more experimenting with that, but it's a very low light level camera. And when you're going over an area like this, it kind of looks out of focus, but I have autofocus on, coming in and out of focus. It looks kind of like clouds, doesn't it? In another light, with the way the moon the shadow line on the moon changes every night. Let me turn autofocus off and try to just manually focus it. You can see that the atmospherics are, see how when I get it in focus and it just, see that area right there? Right, kind of going centered. That looks pretty strange, guys. See that? And there's another, what they call a mar. Now, that, if you looked at that on another moon, it'd be a flat area. But here we got what looks like a long line, two of them going kind of slanted down to the 4 o'clock position, and then to the right of that, a deep gully with something curlicue in there. And but if you looked at that on a different night, it might appear, the whole area might appear to be flat. But in this picture, it looks three-dimensional. Let me back out and I'll try to show you what I'm talking about. See, if I back out and I turn the color all the way down, and you can kind of see how when we do that, it looks flatter. But as soon as I turn the color up, then you can see kind of like how it's three-dimensional. I think it's really interesting. I don't know what it is. I'm an observer. Okay, let's continue going down because I want to try to finish this up here in a minute. Again, I'm doing a circumference. We're trying to work our way back to the shadow line, which we're going to lose here in a couple of nights, and it's going to be completely full. And believe it or not, when it's completely full, that's a good time to really look at some of these Mars. Okay, let's see if we can get it in better focus right here. I'll turn autofocus on right now. Isn't that beautiful, guys? Because of the way the atmospherics are, I want to leave autofocus on for just right now so that we can make sure at least we're seeing as clear a picture as we can. Look at that before I leave. If you look at that area centered right there, let's zoom in a little bit closer. See, it looks kind of like a fissure on the moon with a canyon wall, or like a Grand Canyon kind of a area, right? Okay, let's continue. Sometimes we kind of come on here and we can see spectacular mountain ranges. Other times we can see a closeness. I have an application on my HTC EVO that not only gives me the phases of the moon, but the distance that the moon is from Earth. Every night, the moon in a month varies in distance, and sometimes it's closer and sometimes it's farther away. When it's closer, you can actually get closer with the telescope. It looks closer. Okay, let's, before we finish this up, we're about ready to finish it up, but I want to zoom in as close as I can. See that large crater on the left? And if you look at the top of that, you can see the kind of the rim, how it's a mountain range. I have autofocus on. And look at that series of craters with canyons in them to the right of that. Isn't that interesting? Let me turn the... Anyhow, every time I go up here and I look at this moon, the good Lord created it, and He created it for a purpose, and I think that purpose is that so I can enjoy it and share it with you. I try to get up and look at the moon and this is a good spot to end because we do have quite a bit of clarity in the granularity of this area. Okay, guys, hope you guys all have a happy holiday. I'll be coming in and dipping out as the month progresses, but I hadn't expected to have a break in the weather tonight, but I thought I'd take advantage of it. The weather has been really, 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 really bad, and December's not our best month. So have a happy holidays, and we'll get up there the next break that we can to take a peek at the moon at 1080p and share it with you. In the meantime, I wish you and yours clear skies, guys.